Welcome back to On Texas Basketball. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Gerry Hamilton. Going to be joined by a special guest today. We'll get to that in just a minute. Going to talk about the Texas Duke game, recap the first game of the Sean Miller era, and look ahead to next week with 4 games for Texas until the Maui Invitational when Texas opens with Arizona State. But before we do anything else, Gerry, this episode of On Texas Basketball is brought to you by our friends at Hargrove Roofing.
Yeah, thank you very much to our friends at Hargrove Roofing. With offices across Texas, including Austin, as well as Louisiana and Arkansas, Hargrove Roofing will take care of all your roofing needs. Plus, they're Longhorn friendly with partners like our former defensive tackle, Stevie Lee, Shreveport Evangel standout too. They're the most pro-orange roofing company out there. No one wants to turn their home over to a company they can't trust. So call Hargrove today for a free, no strings attached roof inspection. Just call 512-645-3202. Hargrove Roofing. Know who's on your roof. We're talking hoops here. We don't want to have a bunch of bricks in our house without a roof. Got to have Hargrove Roofing.
No doubt. Our special guest, Gerry, he didn't know much about bricks because it usually goes through the net whenever he's shooting it. We'll be joined by 4-star Texas commit Joe Sterling. Gerry, we're a week out, less than a week now out until the signing period. Real quick, I know we talked a lot about recruiting, but just to recap it real quick, the 2 main prospects for Texas, Austin Gooseby, Cameron Williams, and a couple of guys kind of on the periphery.
Yeah, so Texas has Bo Ogden obviously committed, and Joe Sterling committed, who we're going to talk to in a second. Austin Gooseby is expected to announce his decision on signing day, November 12th, or right around there. That's coming up a week from today. We'll talk to Joe Sterling about all that here shortly. And then Cameron Williams, the 6'11", 5-star power forward out of Phoenix, St. Mary's, Duke, Arizona, Texas, the final 3 there. As far as Austin Gooseby goes, I think he's a Texas lean over BYU in second and Duke third.
All right, let's go ahead and get to our special guest without any further ado. He is a top 100 prospect in America in the class of 2026, committed to Texas, 4-star guard out of Harvard Westlake High School in the state of California. Joe Sterling is our guest. Joe, good to see you, man. How are you?
Good to see you guys. I'm doing good. Appreciate you guys for having me.
Yeah, Joe, season about to tip off here for you guys in a few weeks. High school basketball practice has started. For the Texas fans that are getting familiar with you, kind of tell people about your recruitment, kind of how it started before you get to your Texas commitment, who you made official visits to before that Texas visit, and your decision.
Yeah, so I made official visits to, I think, about 4 other schools. I went to Washington State was my first visit back in my junior year. It was kind of an early official visit. And then this summer I went to Northern Iowa, New Mexico. Where else did I go? I went to UCSB.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think I'm leaving anybody out, am I? I think that was it. Yeah.
No good views at UCSB, but I mean, you live in SoCal,
Right.
so you're used to it anyways, right?
Exactly.
But within that process, so take us through that process, and then Jeff's going to ask you about the Texas commitment. But take us through that process of being kind of one of those guys. You're ranked as a 4-star prospect. You're ranked around the 100 in the country, right? And congrats to you on that. And we're going to talk about your game a little bit. But talk about that process. When did you kind of – so it takes some guys longer than others. When did you kind of go from that mid-major recruit to that high major recruit, and those schools started really coming in on you?
Yeah, I think a lot of those high major schools started to talk to me more, I think, this past spring during the AAU circuit. And, our spring live period sessions in April was when they kind of started to come out and watch me, and then obviously continue through the summer into June for the high school live periods. And that, around that time is when Texas really started to go in heavy on me and some other, Big Ten schools, high major schools. So, yeah.
Joe, what did you know about Texas before the staff started recruiting you, and what were your initial impressions of just getting to know Coach Miller and the staff, and just the process in general, just getting familiar with the Texas program, Austin, Sean Miller, the whole deal?
Yeah, so I started talking to a few of the assistant coaches while they were still at Xavier, kind of towards the end of the season last year, specifically Ryan Anderson and David Miller. So I talked to those guys a little bit before they even came over to Austin. But obviously we continued to talk. And I mean, obviously I knew Texas is just a huge school. It's a big school, a bunch of students. I know they have a really rich history as far as, like KD obviously went to Texas, but Miles Turner, a bunch of other NBA players. So obviously I knew just kind of how good of a overall sports environment Texas has had in the past. I mean, football obviously is huge there as well. So I kind of knew basically anything an average person would know. I don't think, obviously when I went on the visit, I learned a lot more and all that, but yeah.
By the way, I heard you shot the ball around a little bit on your official visit, and the guy who rebounded for you said he didn't really have to move. That's a pretty good sign for Texas fans right there when nobody has to chase a rebound. Walk us through kind of your official visit and your thoughts on Texas initially once you began that visit and got to know Austin and UT a little bit.
Yeah, the visit was obviously great. Obviously they picked me up from the airport, and as soon as we got to the hotel, I mean, damn near the whole staff was there just waiting for me just to greet me and to say what's up. And I think that was a great way to start it off. And then I got there, that was Thursday night, and then Friday we had a jam-packed day. I mean, back to back to back. I was doing meetings with everybody, with, obviously talking to Sean Miller, seeing all the facilities, talking with the academic people, and and just kind of getting a tour of everything we saw, the football stadium and everything. So Friday was back to back to back, and then we went to dinner with the whole. Well, first of all, we watched practice, obviously, and that was great to kind of see Sean Miller in action and see kind of how he teaches and everything like that. So that was great to see. And then after practice, we all went to dinner with the whole staff, and it was just a great experience overall. And I learned a lot about Texas, and it was great to just kind of see what everybody talks so highly about Texas. So it was great to see it in person.
Joe, you had all kinds of Division I options at the end of the day, but when you got ready to make your decision, what put Texas over the top?
Yeah, I think I mean, it was a few things. I think obviously you guys kind of talked about it, how it's, the high major level compared to, the other schools that I was talking to. But also, like, I've always been a person who wanted to, play at the highest level and really compete against the best. Even for high school, like, me personally, I think that I'm in the best, high school league in the country where I'm in right now, and I want to continue that going in to college. But also, I mean, Sean Miller and the staff played a huge part of my decision. I really trust them. I think we built a really strong relationship really fast. And I think the kind of coach that Sean Miller is, and even the player he was in the past, kind of resembles me a little bit. And I think that was a big reason why I chose Texas.
What was Sean Miller's message to you? Kind of what do they see from you in the future? Kind of do they have a plan for you, or is that going to play out after you get to Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I think they obviously have a plan for me as far as, development and kind of just me growing throughout the year. But I think they're really excited about having me, obviously, as a freshman and continuing to build year by year. I think, the current stage of college basketball is so crazy right now with the portal and people leaving and, all that stuff. So I think they're really excited about having me and being able to develop me year by year. And they just kind of like who I am as far as a competitor. I'm sure you guys have heard of the always compete that they always talk about and stuff like that. And that's something that they really see in me. And that's why they, really want to just build me from day one, just continue to build and kind of start the Sean Miller era of Texas off right.
All right, so for the Texas fans that are about to get familiar with your game, just a little background on you. 6'4" without shoes on, grown into that 6'4". Has made, I believe, over 253 pointers of 3 years of high school basketball. That's a really big number at about 45-ish% over that time from freshman, sophomore, and junior year. You played 2 years at Crespi High, then last year at Harvard Westlake. So for the people that haven't watched your YouTube videos from whether that's the Puma Circuit or some high school stuff they can find, describe Joe Sterling's game in Joe Sterling's words.
Yeah, I think a lot of other people would describe me as a shooter, but I like to describe myself as a scorer and kind of more of a playmaker. I think obviously I shoot the ball really well. I shoot at a high clip, high volume, but I think a big thing that I pride myself on is my efficiency. I think my percentages really show that as far as my high school career, past 3 years, AAU high school, all that. But I think that I'm just, like I said before, I'm just a competitor, somebody who's going to play the game the right way, kind of use, my smarts and kind of be savvy as far as, using other people's athleticism against me, because that's not obviously my strong suit. I'm more of just a skilled, kind of smart player. So that's kind of who I am as a player, how I describe myself.
Any college coaches giving you a player comparison for your game? Or any maybe your trainer, anybody Have they given you a player comparison? I've got one. I want to see if it's been said before.
Yeah, well, I'm a Laker fan, so a lot of people like to say Austin Reeves just because that's pretty
Okay.
easy and how he's playing right now. But me personally, I mean, there's a lot of players you can say. I like to kind of watch, well, Lakers again, Luka, but even before he came to Lakers, I was a big Luka fan, so I like to take a lot of stuff from him. And then obviously Steph Curry, kind of as far as he moves off and on the ball, I think that's somebody I try to play like a lot. But there's a lot of people, especially now. People are so skilled nowadays. There's a bunch of players you could use.
You know who, after I watched you and then actually watched them play last night in college, kind of came to mind? Fletcher Lawyer at Purdue. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody's given you that one before, but y'all are similar size, similar games. You win on skill, understanding how to create space to get shot clean looks off. I thought about that one. Can you see that, or am I way off here?
No, I've never heard that one before, but that's actually a pretty good one. I think I love watching him. I've obviously watched him a lot in their deep run they had last year. He's obviously a great player. So yeah, I've never heard that's a new one. I never heard that one before, but that's a good one.
You got to tell that to your trainer and see if he agrees with that one. But
I will.
Talk about some goals for you. Senior year, obviously. You said you do play in a tremendous high school basketball league. For those that aren't familiar with SoCal basketball, I mean, I think I call California basketball state, despite having more. It's known for how many Division I and NFL football players it puts out. I call California basketball state. Actually, talk about your goals for your senior year in that league you play in.
Yeah, we like I said before, I think I play in the best high school basketball league in the country. It's called the Mission League for those that don't know. I'm sure it has a bunch of big schools. Sierra Canyon is a big one that's in it. Notre Dame is another big one. But I think a huge goal for this year is obviously winning a championship, winning the Southern section, and then the overall California state championship, but also winning our 8th straight league championship for Harvard Westlake. We've won 7 in a row. So really just continuing that legacy that Harvard Westlake has had as far as winning in this league and in California in general, for sure. And then for me personally, league MVP is something that I've kind of came close to the past couple of years and something that I really want to get this year. But that comes with winning the league in general. You got to win the league to win the MVP and all that. So that kind of ties in together. And yeah.
Joe, did you get to watch the Texas opener against Duke? And just any thoughts about getting to watch the first game of Coach Miller's tenure at Texas?
Yeah, I was able to watch it. I was excited for that game because my teammate last year, Nick Kamena, he plays for Duke.
He can shoot.
So we had a little back and forth the day before, talking smack to each other. But Duke obviously came out on top. But yeah, it was great to kind of see them compete. I think they kind of proved that they can kind of compete with anybody in the country. I know Duke is a what are they, ranked 6 or something like that, top 10 for sure. So I think it was great to see them in action. I think they're only going to get better.
All right, last question for you, Joe, and I forgot to ask it earlier. You've been onto a lot of college campuses, whether it was on visits or unofficial visits or whatnot throughout your high school career. Impressions of the Moody Center and the facility, the basketball facility, University of Texas.
Yeah, the Moody Center is amazing. I mean, it's like an NBA arena as far as the technology and all the. You could tell it's brand new as far as just everything that they have. I mean, they took us through kind of all the VIP sections and all the obviously locker room and the floor and all the like the video board that they have in there and all that. So I mean, it's crazy. And the Katy Center is right next door where they practice and have the weight room and all that. So all of it is as high level as it gets, and it's crazy, all the things that they have in there.
Joe will give you the last word. One message to the Texas fans.
Oh man, I think my biggest message to Texas fans would be to get ready to see a lot of buckets in the Moody Center coming next year, and a lot of wins too, for sure.
All right, Joe. Hook 'em, buddy.
Hook 'em. Appreciate you guys.
There we go. 4-star guard Joe Sterling. A week from now, he will officially be a Longhorn when he puts pen to paper on National Signing Day. And Gerry, I'll a couple of things there. I love that he's kind of betting on himself, the player development under Sean Miller. We know that's a big thing Sean Miller constantly talks about, his player development. Wants to be more than a shooter, working to be more than a shooter. But Gerry, clearly he's very, very special putting the ball in the hoop.
Yeah, look, he really reminds me of Fletcher Lawyer. I'm surprised he hadn't heard that one before, but for those that don't watch much Purdue basketball, watch Purdue this season. I mean, they're ranked 1 or 2 in the country, and watch how Fletcher Lawyer plays, how he creates space for himself. Obviously, Braden Smith does a good job being able to break down a defense and get him some clean looks, but he also does a really good job moving without the ball, understanding how to create space, and he's a very high-level shooter. And I think Joe Sterling's got a chance to be that type of player long-term in the college game.
So, Gerry, as we get into breaking down the Duke game, it's a 75-60 loss for Texas in the opener. And hearing Sean Miller's post-game comments, a lot of it echoed some of the stuff that we talked about on the watch-along, stuff that you wrote and that I mentioned over at ontexasfootball.com. Didn't like that, felt like the offense could have played with more pace. Obviously expected Texas to shoot it better. The unforced turnovers with Lucina and Matas just getting back, it kind of was what it was. But again, on the positives, love the toughness, the competitive spirit. We talked about that. Hey, you go get 40 rebounds against Duke, you're going to be a tougher team that's not going to get pushed around like we saw Texas at times. So, Gerry, as we get a little bit further removed from the Duke game, just what's really resonating with you from that opener?
Yeah, look, I liked a lot of what I saw, not from that game standpoint in some aspects. It's game one. I mean, Matas and Lucina didn't play in these scrimmages. Lucina hadn't played a college game since March of 2024. And obviously new coach, first game for Sean Miller, trying to bring these guys together. So all basketball teams get better as the season moves along, unless you have injuries or your locker room implodes, right? I think this team really has a chance to get a lot better. But I liked a lot of what I saw. I loved the offense, and we've been talking about it, kind of the Zoom movement, but the fast execution. There's a lot of things that the Gonzaga and Arizona, what Tommy runs over at Arizona, those principles that he took from Mark Few at Gonzaga to Arizona. I just really like where they're headed offensively. And that's one of the reasons I really like Sean Miller, is how he's evolved as a coach offensively from the Arizona days to Xavier to now. And I think he's really started to show at Xavier that change in offensive philosophy to a faster paced game. And I think you're going to see Texas run more and have more transition opportunities this season. The one thing about Duke is they're very unique. And I talked to a couple of college coaches today about how unique Duke actually is. And we talked about it going into the game, but look, they 6'5", 6'6", 6'8" start for them on the perimeter defensively. And then it's 6'4" and 6'5" off the bench. Those are their 5 perimeter defenders. Yep. The days of Duke having a 6'1" guard and a 6'2" guard with bigs behind it is over. John Shire is recruiting the tallest, longest, smartest basketball players he can find to have a hoops IQ. And you really saw that in what Duke was able to do against Texas was they could pressure a little bit when they had to. Like, they wanted to keep Jordan Pope from getting comfortable as long as they possibly could. They did some of that with Tremont Mark, but because they were so long, they could play half a step away at times and still not allow you to get a clean look and react to that due to their height-length combo. And what that does then, they played to make Texas win some one-on-one battles against that length and stand up and make shots over that length and not really play a lot of help defense. And Duke is a different team than a lot, and where they're unique is there's not a lot of college basketball teams that can pull that off, that also have size behind that perimeter length. But, Duke is really different there. And I was looking through Texas' schedule today. The only team that can come close to replicating that type of perimeter length on defense will be Alabama. And that's more of a 1 through 5 thing than a 1 through 3 thing in a weird way. Now, they got length there, don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure it's that level. Dame Sarr was guarding Tremont Mark for stretches of that game. He's 6'8" wing player, essentially. But Duke's the most talented NBA talented team in college basketball. They were last year, too, and they didn't win. It takes more than that. And I don't think they're as offensively as gifted as that team was last year, but I think this is the best defensive team Duke's had in a while, and I think that showed up. And I said all that to say this, Jeff. I think Texas is going to get a lot better looks. They're going to have better opportunities to get into the paint with the guards in future games. It's not a knock on who they're playing. Some other high majors they're playing, but they're not playing Duke 31 times this year. I do know that. And And nobody wants to play Duke 31 times, although maybe you start to get the cheat code on them a little bit after a few of those games. But they have such great length. They present a unique issue on the perimeter that other teams just can't match. But I liked a lot of what I saw from Sean Miller yesterday. And Matas and Traore, if you told me going into that game you're going to get 20 and 17 from your centers, I would have said against Duke, probably not. These guys didn't play in a scrimmage. They missed practice time. The 9 turnovers, can't have that. Dog won't hunt because charges count as TOs. Matas has got to play under control and learn to play without fouling as much. He's just got to slow it down a little bit. I think once he slows it down, his footwork can take over, but he was in a rush, so he lost his footwork and balance, and then you don't keep your base ideally as you want to in the post. But those guys, Texas is going to be able to rebound the ball. They're going to be able to protect the rim a little better. They're going to be able to hold defensive position in the post in a league that has some length, a lot of length and athleticism in it. But Dalen Swain's a tremendous basketball player. If he shoots it even close to that this year, he's going to have a great year. I think you'll see more out of the guards. I liked a lot of what I saw from this Texas team and where they're going to be going in the future.
And Gerry, there probably aren't going to be too many games the rest of the way where they'll go a combined 9 for 21 on dunks and layups. Just and none of those were – very few of those were easy shots. Most of them were contested, but they'll make the majority of those. And, even Coach Miller mentioned this in the postgame press conference, when you turn it over on about a quarter of your possessions, that's not winning basketball. But again, when you look at it, 9 of those turnovers were Lucina and Matas, who are adjusting to the speed and everything. Like you said, it's a valid point. Things are going to get better. One thing I do want to mention, Gerry, you mentioned the guards. Tremont Mark, they're going to need him to take more than 2 shots, and that will happen. On the flip side, though, you and I talked about it. This was probably not a game where Cam Heide and Jordan Pope were going to get the kind of looks that they're going to get for the vast majority of the year. But even then, Gerry, off the catch, Jordan Pope scores 15 points, 3 for 4 from the 3-point line, goes 6 for 7 at the foul line. You're going to win basketball games in SEC play if he can do that.
Yeah, and look, what was good about last night from a Jordan Pope perspective is he's not really a ball screen isolation player. So last year he was in a tough spot because the ball screen isolation guys were Trey Johnson and Tremont Mark. So he was pretty much sitting in a stagnant offense in the corner a lot of the times. That's not what he is. Well, his game is creating some space off the dribble a little bit, but not necessarily in the ball screen game. The action they run with the zoom offense is actually really good for him, where he can catch the dribble handoff and play on the move, and then he can get to the wing. And a lot of his shots were off the step back. So he understands how to create that space, get to the step back, and because he's a high-level shooter, the fact that he made those shots against Duke's length, the way I think he's going to fit in Sean Miller's offense, I think he's set up to have a really good year. And what came out of last night with Jordan Pope for me is it may not show up in the next few games. So when you get to Maui and you play ASU, and if you win that game, you play in Washington State, those teams are going to try to take Jordan Pope away and make the other guys beat him. That's what needs to happen for this Texas team so those other guys can get opportunities as well. I think Jordan Pope's going to have a really good year for Texas, and I still think he'll score in those games. But what last night did for me is ASU has to try to take him out. They don't want Jordan Pope going for 22 against them in Maui in a first-round game. So what is that going to do? Because he shoots the ball so well, it's going to open up an opportunity and some spacing for others. But guys then have to start taking advantage, and they're going to have some more favorable matchups down the road.
Gerry, it's an unconventional home opener for Texas, 2:00 Saturday afternoon against Lafayette. We expect Texas to win the game, no question. But, Gerry, what's one thing you want to see coming out of that game?
Tremont Mark being more assertive. I thought he could have raised up and shot the 3 early in that game. That was before, Duke started pressuring him a little bit more. I want to see him try to get going early in this game. I want to see a faster pace, more of the fast execution, get down the floor and get into the offense early, maybe create some transition opportunities. Look, I think Lafayette will try to slow that down. And neither team last night really wanted to play super fast. I think Texas didn't want to play super fast because that means Duke can get transition threes on the other end. I think Duke didn't want to play super fast because they wanted Texas to have to earn it against that great half-court lengthy defense. So I think that's a reason why neither one of those teams really wanted to challenge each other in the up and down game because it suited them both not to last night. I think we'll see Texas push tempo and pace more, even against Arizona State, who's going to play fast under Bobby Hurley. Washington State, some of those schools, and Virginia. That Texas-Virginia game, December 3rd, is going to be super duper fast because Ryan Odom plays really fast at Virginia. So I think we're going to see more of that. The other thing, Jeff, for me is I want to see, I want to get to see Cam Heide get some looks, right? I want to see Declan DeRue get to play a little bit more and start to develop as an offensive player in college basketball. He's got to get, since he wasn't here this summer, he's got to get used to how games are officiated, get used to what Sean Miller wants out of him. It's different from how he's played in the past. He's a very talented player. I would argue he's a top 4 talented player on this team as far as pure talent goes. I want to see Nick Cody continue to get consistent minutes so he can be a deliverer on the offensive end for this team, because I do think this team needs to be all hands on deck on offense, with Dalen Swain being the best player. Lucina will continue to get better. Matas will continue to get better. But I want to see a more aggressive Tremont Mark from the start these next few games before Maui. He's got to be a little more assertive early in games.
And if you want to look at the bright side of Lucina, considering he hadn't played in so long, you go out and grab 9 rebounds in 18 minutes against Duke, you can do some work. So, again, Jerry, that's my big takeaway. So many times last year we saw Texas get bullied and pushed around and out physical in the SEC. I'm almost convinced that will not happen this year with the makeup of this team.
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, that they're going to have a decided advantage in some of these games, and that's why I think some teams will, like a Lafayette, Fairleigh Dickinson, Kansas City, Ryder. Those are the 4 games before Texas heads to Maui. Texas is going to have a decided interior size strength advantage. They're going to win a lot of those matchups, right? The other thing I want to look for, Jeff, is Matas to play without fouling, because he was one of the highest foul rate players last year as a freshman at FAU. Well, now he's going to be going against players that are going to attack that with better, higher level skill at the high major level. And I want to see him play without fouling. But Texas is going to have decided advantages all over the court in these next 4 games. I want to see them put those actual to success and execution against teams that will play different styles against them, and probably try to keep Texas from running and keep them in a half-court game.
No doubt. All right, Jerry, thank you for the knowledge and expertise. As always, thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you to future Longhorn Joe Sterling for joining us. And thank you to our friends over at Hargrove Roofing for sponsoring it. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, you can get over to the site right now and sign up using the promo code OTFOG, and that'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for just $39.95. Make sure that you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or on the site, you're not missing any of our Texas basketball coverage throughout the year. For Jerry, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Until next time, hook 'em.